My name is Alec Welch. I was born and raised in Joplin, Missouri. Both my parents attended Ozark Christian College for at least some time, and my older brother just graduated from it, and I'm currently a senior in the psychology and counseling department. I also am minoring in the Christian formation / spiritual direction field, or whatever it is that we call that here. I've always been interested in reading and writing. However, as writing very big papers has become more important to my academic career, reading small, condensed fantasy fiction things has become far more important to me in my leisure time. As a result, I very much enjoy reading Korean webcomics. I also like manga and other Southeastern Asia fiction. Whatever format it may be, and I like anime. I enjoy playing games, both of video game variety as well as like card and board games that I play with people, and I'm pretty good at them too, which is a nice bonus. I'm a big fan of elephants. My favorite color is blue, and that about sums me up in a pretty quick nutshell. So if I was going to talk to someone about two big reasons why I think that Christianity is true and worth pursuing, I think that I would have to hit on the records of Jesus' resurrection and the early history of the church, and also hit on the transformation that I see in individuals, both in Scripture and today. So to start with Jesus, we have four very detailed accounts, either of eyewitnesses or of individuals who researched very heavily into what happened in the life of a man named Jesus, who's described as God incarnate, who took on the sin of man, was brutally crucified by the Roman government, but then also was reported to have been seen by multiple individuals following his death as a resurrected man with the wounds that he sustained during the crucifixion. It's something that is very difficult to explain, given the number of people who saw that, the number of people whose lives were changed, the early church starting up, the Roman Empire. They had a very strict policy on maintaining peace throughout, and a big part of that was suppressing new religions that had new and potentially subversive ideas. Christianity was one of those that was attacked very heavily. As soon as it was differentiated from Judaism, and Christians were attacked by Jews from breaking from their community. So there was no real reason for these Jews who followed Christ to start living differently, to start up new communities, if in fact there was no truth behind the stories that they were telling and the lives that they were living. And you got to also take into account the fear that is recorded in the leaders of the early church, which totally changed whenever, as the scriptures say, the Spirit of God, as Jesus promised it, entered them. It's a very difficult transition from very terrified leaders to very bold church leaders. Very difficult to explain. And the record of Scripture, which has been evaluated by experts as reliable history according to the standards of the day in which it was written, just seems to point very strongly to the reality of Jesus and the power that he has. And even today, that transformation thing, it can still be seen. Now, in the scriptures, we read of a man named Saul of Tarsus, who was a very devoted Jew. He killed Christians. He went to great lengths to do this. But according to this record and many other letters that he later wrote himself, that were preserved throughout the church, one day, Jesus appeared to him while he was on his way traveling far to kill Christians. And after that day, Saul himself was transformed, changed his name, totally changed the way that he lived, and he was a huge advocate for Jesus. Today I see this in the life of my good friend, who was an introvert who hated people before he met Jesus, and now he's the most magnetic person I've ever seen. He is totally on fire, has a huge drive for living and for worshiping God. Even myself, I used to not see much point in this life. I didn't have anything to shoot for, and I didn't really have a motivation. But Jesus has changed that about me. He has affected transformation in me to where I'm not as selfish, I'm not as prideful. I can see things differently because of the power of Christ in me, and I know people in my life who can say the exact same thing. Explain that, if in fact Christianity is not true.